During a previous post, I drove by rubyfranke's Springville home. After driving by, I had a huge question about why it appeared the front door had been vandalized. I now have the answer to this question. The second thing that I had a huge question about had to do with Kevin Franke and his negligence from taking care of his children. I also have additional information that has recently come to light in a police report regarding Mr. Kevin. Small pieces of this puzzle are starting to be revealed. Ruby Franke, the mother of 6 behind the family YouTube channel 8 Passengers, was arrested and charged with 6 counts of felony child abuse in August 2023. The charges stem from the allegation that Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, neglected and abused several of Franke's children. Ruby Franke is currently in jail awaiting a bond hearing. The case against Ruby Franke is still ongoing, but it has already raised important questions about the role of social media in parenting and the responsibility of social media platforms to protect children. That's another question that we will talk about in the future. Today, I wanted to report on a few questions that I've had that I now have the answers to, or at least I can shed some light on a previous mystery. Let's first talk about the broken door question. Why was the door broken and there was duct tape on that front door of Ruby Franke's fancy home in Springville, Utah? Well, the answer is the door had in fact been kicked in during a police raid shortly after Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested back in August. The police had a search warrant, and at the time they didn't know if Ruby's other children were in danger in her home. So they kicked the door open and went in. During this search of her home, the police gained access by breaking down the front door. I assumed that this was the reason the door was broken, but I had no proof until now. After the search warrant was completed back in August, Ruby Franke's oldest daughter, Sherry, was allowed to access Ruby's home. There's some shocking things about that, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But that's not even the most shocking part of the latest police report that was made public. And it was not the only question that I posed earlier that has now been answered. Ruby Franke's oldest daughter, Sherry, is a junior at BYU. Sherry has distanced herself from her parents for over a year because of the terrible circumstances that she endured while living there. Basically, she couldn't take it anymore. She had not been in her childhood home for 13 months due to the strain on the relationship with her parents. We now know that her father, Kevin, also had not been in the home for 13 months or thereabout. I've wondered if the alleged abuse the children apparently suffered under the hands of their mother, Ruby, was happening with or without the consent of the children's father, Kevin. As I reported earlier in previous videos, Kevin's attorney claims Kevin was also a victim of Jodi and Ruby. The techniques that Jodi Hildebrandt taught Ruby and Ruby believed to a T, according to all the documentation that we can find and video evidence of the two on their YouTube channel. It appears they were in cahoots. But from the beginning, upon investigating all the Franke abuse allegations, I have wondered why Kevin did not step up and take care of his children. Was he drinking the Kool-Aid as well? That's the question of the hour. Sherry Franke, the oldest daughter, and Ruby's sisters have been reporting to authorities for at least a year, trying to get Ruby and Jodi arrested. But according to Bonnie, Ruby's sister, their reports have fallen on deaf ears. But of all the people who could have made a difference and could have had the right to step in and stop this abuse, it would have been the father, Kevin Franke. He was the husband and the father, and he had the rights to do so, but he never did. He just moved out and let Ruby do her thing, according to all the documentation. As more and more evidence has been made public, I've continued to wonder why, if Kevin's attorney's statements are true, and he, meaning Kevin, was also a victim, why hasn't he reconnected with his daughter Sherry, who at least on the surface seems to be fighting on the same side of this argument? Basically, there's been hearings for child custody that are now closed-door hearings. But before they were closed-door hearings, Sherry went in with her attorney, and she was not with her father and his attorney. So obviously there's a rift here, and I've been wondering all this time, why? If in fact Kevin is a victim, why wouldn't he be rallying the troops around his daughter Sherry? Now we have the answer, at least in part, to that question. Kevin is not only blaming Ruby for his troubles, but it appears that he is going to blame Sherry as well. Who does that sound like? Any of you that have been following this case might remember that during the child custody hearing that was leaked by the Daily Mail, those of us that are YouTubers didn't know that they were told not to give the information out by the judge, but they did. Ruby went in with guns a-blazing, and she went after her children, giving terrible allegations that I will not repeat here because I don't trust one word out of her mouth. And you have to realize that she will do anything to blame her children for their severe punishments that she and Jodi were inflicting. Apparently, Kevin is just like her in that he's willing to blame his own child rather than taking responsibility for himself. According to the police report, Ruby's husband Kevin wanted to file charges against his own daughter Sherry. Wait till you hear this. She had gone into the home and apparently took some property after the police raid. Let me give you the details on this. Springville police officers were called back to Ruby's home on a number of occasions after their initial warrant. The eldest sister, Sherry, had gone to the home to gather clothing and personal items for her two sisters. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like something that a loving family member would do, of course. But not according to Kevin. A DCFS caseworker was also at the home gathering items for the other two children who were and are in the state's custody in southern Utah after they were located the previous day in Ivins at Jodi Hildebrandt's home. This caseworker informed police they believed Kevin Franke might be at home and that he may not be cooperative, which is why they requested police assistance. Again, why isn't he cooperative? When police arrived, the caseworker, Sherry, and a few other family members were already in the home. Remember that at this time, according to Kevin Franke's attorney, Kevin claims he and the kids were manipulated by his wife, Ruby Franke, and her business partner, therapist, Jodi Hildebrandt. Okay, so if this is true, that poor Kevin is a victim here too, why isn't he now trying to protect his children? Police records show multiple responses to Utah YouTuber Ruby Franke's home in years before her arrest. She's already been on the radar. She's been on the radar for a while, but there was never enough to put her in jail. Not without these latest charges or without help from the family, like the father. The 911 call that details the condition of the 12-year-old son prior to the YouTuber's mom's arrest is very disturbing. Not to mention the other sister. Okay, now I want to quote directly from the police report. All of them were further advised that they should not collect any items that do not belong to them or aren't needed for the children. That's according to the police report. Here's the part in the police report that's just shocking to me. Kevin Franke wants his daughter, Sherry, charged with burglary. And he is threatening to sue the Springville police for breaking down his door and allowing his daughter and child advocates to enter the home and take supplies for the children. Who gets mad and wants to sue and file charges against their own daughter because they want to get things for the abused children? What is happening? On September 1st, Springville police received a call from Kevin Franke, Ruby's husband, to report a burglary. Kevin allegedly reported that electronic items, specifically his electronic journals, were missing. Now realize he's been gone for 13 months. How does he know his daughter's the one that took them instead of his wife or therapist or whoever? He immediately jumps to, she did it, I want charges against her. He told officers he believes his oldest daughter, Sherry, is responsible due to a statement she made in court. The officer then tells Kevin the front door had been broken in after a search warrant was served days prior and not broken by his oldest daughter. I don't know if you've seen his oldest daughter. She's a tiny little sweetheart. And he's trying to allege she broke down a door. I'm starting to get very suspicious of Kevin. Let me just say that. I was already suspicious, but now things aren't adding up for him. Kevin then stated that Sherry is not allowed in the home and that he believes she entered unlawfully and he wants her charged with burglary. Kevin states he does not want any of the children mentioned in the home at this time. Okay, I'm getting sick to my stomach. The police officer then once again explained to Kevin that they needed to get essential items of theirs that were in the home, but he did not seem to think those items were relevant. You look back on some of the videos where they take things away from the kids and they don't get to have a phone for a year or whatever. I'm sure it's probably tied in with that.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like the question.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disney and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in the suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walked out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom and Chai got the the smaller bedroom, and Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room.
This is just one example of how Ruby and Kevin take things away from the kids and they don't get to have a phone for a year or whatever. I'm sure it's probably tied in with that. The report also mentions that Sherry brought the items to the Springville Police Department and they were given to Kevin a short time later. Wait till you hear what items he's talking about. Among the items were 3 tablets, 3 cell phones, 3 camera GoPros, a stack of written journals, and 3 passports for Kevin, Ruby, and another one of their children. Okay, I just have to have a little side note here. As I read over the items returned to Kevin, I'm in shock that these items were not confiscated by the police in their search warrant of the house prior to Sherry entering the home. Okay, number one, so I'm like, why didn't the police already take these things? And then secondly, what father goes after his daughter in a case like this? It's just blowing my mind. Okay, let's get back to the report. The complainant, meaning Kevin, was informed that we would not be charging his daughter with anything, as her intent was not to deprive him of items that she had previously been allowed in the home, and he had not been in the home, admittedly, for 13 months. That's what the police officer wrote in his report. The officer said that he explained to Kevin over the phone that due to the circumstances surrounding the incident, we would not be filing charges against Sherry, and that would be considered a civil issue due to her intent not being to deprive him of items. He, Kevin, advised he was going to sue the police department, the officer wrote. Kevin was displeased with this answer and advised that we would be hearing from his attorney. That is according to 2 News. What on earth? This is simply astonishing. First of all, who says the GoPros, for instance, are not Sherry's rather than Kevin's? Remember, these 6 kids have worked their whole lives on this YouTube channel that, according to Ruby's own words, made her millions of dollars.
I was making millions, and I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it, and I'm not going to lose them. They're seeing truth, they're accepting truth, they're loving truth.
It appears to me that the entitlement people are Ruby and Kevin. The assets in the home surely could be considered to be Sherry's property as much as they are Kevin's. Let's not get off track here. That's a whole other conversation. What father, I know I keep saying it, but it's just so crazy to me. What father goes after his own daughter like this? Whew. I really have been trying to give Kevin the benefit of the doubt until more information comes out. I mean, I've even wondered, is Ruby just this narcissistic, controlling, victimizer? Is Jodi Hildebrandt and really Kevin? Oh, poor Kevin, he's just gone with it and he's a poor victim as well. But now I just don't believe that he is doing what a father should be doing, which is protecting his own children. 2 News had an interview scheduled with Kevin's attorney, Randy Kessler, but it was canceled due to the current state of the juvenile court case. What do we learn by that? We learned that the court case obviously hasn't happened yet. It is sealed. So we really can't get the information, but we can get little breadcrumbs. And that is, the court case hasn't happened yet. It hasn't been determined who's going to get these kids. You know Kevin's fighting for them now. Kind of crazy. But based on that, that helps us to understand why this hearing for Ruby and Jodi back in St. George has not happened yet either, because they've already said that they would like to see what happens with the child custody case before they do a bond hearing in St. George. In St. George, the hearing was postponed until after October 5th, and the date has still not been set. Well, now we know why. The child custody case still has not been finished being ironed out, and until that happens, the case in St. George will not be heard. So basically, Ruby and Jodi are sitting in jail without bail until this can get ironed out, and it's a mess. So let's just talk about previous statements that Kevin's attorney has said to the media. He's been on multiple channels. Kester, which is Kevin's attorney, has shared with media sources talking about Kevin as if Kevin was a victim. And that he's a loving father who was kind, etc., etc., etc. It just doesn't add up. So now Mr. Randy Kester has an image problem, in my opinion, because Kevin was already not looking good, but it's looking worse for him. And whatever Mr. Randy Kester can say about Kevin, I don't know about you, but the rest of us are just kind of like, I'm not buying it. Let me give you the written statement that Randy Kester did reveal to 2 News regarding these reports. Okay, I'm going to quote. Kevin didn't do either. He and Sherry are working together on bygones and resuming a loving and healthy father-daughter relationship. Kevin is still trying to understand and correct the upside-down world that was dealt him. It's a lot to deal with at once. Really? What in the world? Once again, it appears to me that Kevin is playing the victim card. He just worries about his own welfare and doesn't seem to be interested in his children. How about worrying about them for once? Seriously, you're going to file a charge against your daughter and the police department rather than being outraged for what has happened to your children? Can you tell this fires me up? I have a video I'm working on regarding the crazy wrongs going on with the therapist inserting herself into this family and wreaking havoc. I'm going to get that posted in the next few days, but there are a lot of legal insights I have uncovered. I know at times it can be hard to find my content since YouTube algorithms put up the same 20 videos over and over as top searches, and it's hard to get down to some of the others. I'm sorry, and I know this can be frustrating. I've personally been trying to find some videos that I'd watched in the past, and I have the hardest time finding them. And this is the only thing that I can say. If you subscribe to my channel and you ring the bell to all, then you'll be notified, and it won't be so hard to find these updates as they come about. And I will keep you informed the best I can. And I'll see you again soon. See ya.